Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second round of the EBaTCC Championship, organized on the World Sim Series platform, the most popular racing class from the real world transferred to the virtual one at the beginning of the year 2023 for the fourth virtual season of the EBaTCC Championship. And after witnessing first really intense and interesting round at Bikarnieki racetrack, we can clearly state that it is not less an interesting race as it is in real life. Trying to figure out how am I sounding and if those engine noises aren't too loud. Anyways, back to the action. We are live on track, and the man who has never driven on this track in real life, Nimz, is leading again by 400ths of a second, less than 400ths of a second, against T.Gudinavičius, who is also out on the racetrack, still trying to out-qualify the German driver. T.Gudinavičius led the qualifying session from the beginning, but roughly 3 minutes ago, Nimz put in a phenomenal lap time, and I've seen T.Gudinavičius go slightly faster, so I believe he still has a chance to run a little bit faster, but we don't know how much faster Nimz can drive. Massat is currently third driver from Brazil, also never been on this racetrack in the real world in comparison to some of his rivals in this virtual championship. Matas Mendel is currently fourth, forgot to paint his car in the Dream to Drive colors, so is under orange color this evening. He's fourth in the qualifying session at this moment. Svetin's driver from the Road Racing team is currently fifth, with a nice lap time of 1 minute 28.1, but that's more than half a second slower than the fastest lap time of current qualifying session leader. Edvinas Žadeikis is currently sixth, the driver who finished third in the previous race. 55 seconds to go, so not a lot of time remain in this qualifying session. Toros Nila currently seventh, so again we have a couple of Dream to Drive drivers on this racetrack. Same ones that race in real world. Shubetsky is also driver from the real 325 Cup class, racing in the virtual environment and doing that phenomenally fast. He's doing good, and you can see how tight it is starting from P3. Edvinas Žadeikis just managed to take that third spot from Massat by 500ths of a second. And I believe Massat has just ended his qualifying session, so did Svetin. Gvidasokas is currently 9, Ungur's 10th. And let me take a look into the gap from P3 to P20. It's only 6 tenths, and actually to P22 to P23. Well, it's only 8 tenths, P3 to P25, our final participant, so it's tight again, and it's much tighter than it is in real life. Of course, it's the virtual environment. We have spoken about it a little bit the last time. All the cars have identical setups. They don't have tire blankets. Fuel usage is 200%. Tire wear is 150%. So anyway, everyone has equal conditions. Everyone has brand new virtual BMW, and only the driver skills matter. So the drivers have to be as good as they can behind their real wheels, no matter what gear they use to drive those virtual cars. But they have to do phenomenally good. A lot of drivers are already in the pit lane. Tauras Tunila just crossed the line and he didn't manage to go faster. Justinas Saldukas should cross the line about now. He was only 1,000 seconds slower than the driver ahead of him, and he manages to put a lap time worth of 10th place. Oh, what a stylish finish by Kovalevskis, driving rear. The rear end was facing forwards, which is not the right way for a car to drive fast. Ozolinj, nice drift skills, really showing that you can drift in these 325 BMW easily, and enough of power to spin those semi-slicks, virtual Nankangs. Svetlins is out on the racetrack, but I believe the qualifying session is over, and yes, indeed it is. So, to take a short break, let's drive around one lap of this track together with Edvinas Žadeikis from the real track. So this was one lap around the track located in Pärnu, Estonia, Porsche Ring, together with Edvinas Žadeikis in his BMW. He did quite well in this qualifying session and managed to qualify third again, I believe, as he did last week. But Jan Nimz took another pole position and did the best job that he could do. Proving that he's one of the fastest Germans World Sim Series has ever seen, and without being in the real track, on the real track, he's still doing really nice. Gudinavičius took the second position, but currently Gudinavičius is leading the championship because Jan Nimz won the first race of the previous round. He finished second in the second race, but he was given a 10 seconds penalty, which dropped him to third. He was still second in the overall results, but that gave Tauras Gudinavičius a 10-point lead. Anyways, we'll speak about it later, because we have some hot action happening on track right now, and we are ready to start the second round and the first race of it. 20-minute sprint race. Away we go. And Nimz has a good start, and it's usually all about the start of the race. So let's find a better camera, and Tauras Gudinavičius is going for it around the outside. Jan Nimz, I think we had a contact, and this is a huge battle, a huge crash, and I think it started with Tauras Gudinavičius giving a small nudge to Jan Nimz, and now we have to wait a little bit to take a quick look at the results. Tauras Gudinavičius leading the pack, but I think he is the man to blame of what happened behind him. Svetlins up to second position, Tauras Tunila third, Edvinas Žadeikis right behind him, Gvidasokas up to fifth, Mendelis I think he's down to sixth. I'm not sure which position he started, but I believe it was fourth or fifth position. Maybe even sixth. Shrubetskis seventh, Masad eighth, and Jan Nimz, he's going to be really furious. And I think someone's drifting off the track. Who was it? Oh, and it was T.Gudinavičius. So what happened to T.Gudinavičius? The man who was third is off track again. So similar situation. We had Matas Mendelis now is driving off the racetrack. What's happening with these drivers? And they started on cold tires, and I think those hot heads are not doing favors for the drivers. But that's let's say a favor for Jan Nimz, because he is back to P6. Of course, it's not P1. He was nudged off the racetrack, and that's how close it is with Svetins, and Žadeikis is going up to, back to P4. He was running fourth behind T.Gudinavičius. I think those two drivers collapsed. Oh, now Jan Nimz clips the back end of Edvinas Žadeikis, and these drivers, these guys are really hot-headed this evening, and I think the stewards will have quite a lot of work to do after the race is finished, because we have seen a lot of nudges, a lot of incidents already. So Jan Nimz up to P4 after that nudge to the back end of Edvinas Žadeikis, which was not a nice overtake maneuver, but it's not the first one we have seen this afternoon. T.Gudinavičius without any problems in the lead, and I'm not sure if there's anyone who can fight T.Gudinavičius in the first race, unless someone is a steward of this championship. Edvinas Žadeikis is going into the inside on Jan Nimz, so he had a nice line around the banked corner of Estonia. Jan Nimz runs wide, still stays side by side with Edvinas Žadeikis to the next left-hander. Side by side, Edvinas had a better line, but to the next corner, which is a slower right-hand corner, Jan Nimz has the slight edge, and while driving side by side, these drivers are not driving their fastest lap times, and they are wasting precious moments, and they are letting away those drivers ahead. So Gvidasokas and Šubeckis, and now Svetins might have a chance, because Edvinas Žadeikis ran a little bit wide, clipped the grass, while T.Gudinavičius with a 3.1 seconds lead against Gvidasokas was running second. Edvinas Žadeikis drifts a little bit out of those corners. Maybe his tires have overheated after these harsh battles. Okay, let's calm down a little bit and try to see what's happening behind those battles up in front. Ozoliņš currently 9th, battling with Markevičius. And this is basically the battle for pole position for the second race, which is also a really important position, as we have witnessed last week. Of course, T.Gudinavičius managed to win that second race, but we had a lot of drama, and it was really hard to tell who will take that win, and we had a lot of battles. I didn't expect such dramatic first race of the second round, but Pärnu circuit always brings some nice, interesting battles all around the racetrack, and it's really hard to follow action on the racetrack. Ozoliņš stays on the track. Okay, we have two Ozoliņš, so I have lost a little bit. Mištotas currently 14th. Quite a lot of wheel input into the penultimate right-hander. Scrubbing those front tires a little bit. Jan Nimz managing to put in the fastest lap time of the race so far. He's currently 4th, 1.5 seconds behind Šubeckis. Already 0.9 seconds ahead of Edvinas Žadeikis. Žadeikis pretty calm, running 5th, not at the position he would like to, but it's still not that bad as it is for T.Gudinavičius, who is currently running 25th, and I think he needed to pit because he's quite a distance behind the drivers. Zintaras Raits running 13th. Maybe he's looking into a better result this weekend. I think he was involved in an accident 2 weeks ago, which didn't allow him to finish in a better position. He's currently battling for higher places, and he's not that far away from that P10, which currently belongs to K. Ozoliņš. And sadly, I don't have those names of the drivers, just the first letters, and I don't know all of the drivers personally, so all I know it's only K. Ozoliņš currently 10th, which is the pole position for the second race. We are currently running with Šubeckis and Vidasokas in a nice tight little battle. They are being chased by Jan Nimz and Edvin Žadeikis, and it's only 1 second now separating Šubeckis and Jan Nimz, the driver from Germany. And I'm really certain Jan Nimz will get quite close to the end of Šubeckis, to the back end of the BMW of Šubeckis, but well, it's not going to be the easiest task to try and make that overtaking maneuver count. In the meantime, Gudinavičius setting the fastest lap time of the race while those tires heating up. Or actually, after those tires picked up the temperature, it took maybe 2 or 3 laps in the race pace on the race trim for those tires to pick the race temperature or the needed temperature. And now T.Gudinavičius almost smashing his qualifying lap time, which was only enough for P2, but now he's leading the race, of course. Still not over, and we have seen penalties given out after the previous race, and I'm pretty sure there will be penalties after this race. We missed quite a lot of actions. Actually, we have only seen one very important after the start of the race between T.Gudinavičius and Jan Nimz. And I think T.Gudinavičius was at fault, and the incident evolved actually into a slightly bigger one. And well, T.Gudinavičius might be theoretically looking at a penalty. We are running on board with Jan Nimz, the driver who was the fastest during the qualifying session. He is currently fastest during the first race, 1 minute 27.8. He's running fourth, right behind Šubeckis with 12 minutes. With 12 minutes of this race remaining, he still has plenty of time to try and make things change, while Vidasokas is facing the harsh attacks of Richard Šubeckis. The drivers have to be tidy and really cautious. They see those faster drivers in the rear view mirrors. Oh, quite close, almost coming together. Nice driving by both of the drivers, managing to avoid contacts even though they come quite close together. Šubeckis was really careful. I think Jan Nimz is sitting behind these two drivers and waiting patiently. No, he's not. He wants that third place, but it's not the way you need to make those moves count. And what's happening with these drivers this evening, that's giving a chance for Edvin Žadeikis again. He's going for a move on Jan Nimz, and he's in the inside of Richard Šubeckis, but he's again on the wrong side of the racetrack, because the next one is a right-hander and a slow one, and that will not give Edvin Žadeikis the advantage. So that should allow Jan Nimz to stay ahead of Edvin, and that's the way it is. But it looks like it's quite an opposite view that we have witnessed 2 weeks ago, while we had contact, but not as many, and especially not at front. This time there's a lot of contacts happening between the drivers, and I think the judges will have a lot of work to do. Of course, Jan Nimz is he can be really angry after that incident in turn 1, and well, no matter that T.Gudinavičius is currently leading and maybe facing a penalty, Jan Nimz is only fourth, and he needs those places back. He needs to finish second. Oh, Šubeckis, was that a mistake, or was that another nudge by Jan Nimz? I think you cannot slide that on your own, so I think that was another nudge by Jan Nimz, and now he's kind of in trouble. Let's take a quick look at those incident points. Jan Nimz has 3. Žadeikis has 9 incident points. So not only Jan Nimz racing harsh and another contact between Edvin Žadeikis and Šubeckis, but this was a side contact, which is, well, nothing for the judges to decide. Jan Nimz being pushed, being scrubbed, being drawn on the grass, and I think he will not control that car, and that's it. Jan Nimz gives up, and it's too much for the driver from Germany. He cannot stand this scrubbing, and I think he was already quite angry after that incident in first corner. That's why he didn't maybe avoid those smaller accidents. Oh, I think my telemetry is it my telemetry? I think it's Vidasokas who faced some troubles. Vidasokas is standing in the pit lane, and what happened to the driver who was running second in the first race. Something happened to Gvidas Okas. Not good news, but look at that gap that T.Gudinavičius is carrying with him. So I'm not sure what the penalty might be for T.Gudinavičius for that first corner tap with Jan Nimz, but he might just grow him enough of a gap to remain first. And Gvidas Okas made a rookie mistake, and he forgot to fill up that tank with the needed amount of fuel, so he needed to get back into the pit lane, and I think he will call it a day with at least the first race of this evening. There will be the second one. We miss a couple of drivers. I think Tauras, Tonila, Gudil and Okas are already out, but they are still, well, they have the chance to start in the next race. Sorry for that confusion with those cameras running with Ungurs. I just wanted to catch a nice onboard camera in this really nice tight battle, running onboard with Ungurs, who is running 7th, and Šubeckis, Saldukas and Markevičius. All 3 drivers ahead of Ungurs are battling for P4. Svetins and Žadeikis are trying to get away of this battle, and I think they are already safe with those positions that they are currently running at, but the difficult first race just showing how difficult it will be in the second one for the drivers who will start the race in a reversed order. And currently Ozoliņš is running 10th, which is the pole position for the second race. We still have 7 minutes remaining of this first one, so quite a lot of things can change. Jānis Straupe and K. Ozoliņš running side by side. I think we have 3 Latvian drivers, yes indeed, running in a group of cars, and Jānis Straupe going for a move, braking late, but it looks like Ozoliņš braked even later into that first left-hander, and he managed to stay in front. Beautiful battle between these Latvian drivers. 2 of them are either brothers or maybe brother and father. At least they have the same surname. This is a nice battle between 3 cars. The drivers have to be cautious because when you get so close with these BMWs, it's really easy to make those contacts, but the drivers are doing, at least up until now, a phenomenal job avoiding those contacts. Side by side, Jānis Straupe was forced to choose that outside line, which is slightly longer, but it is faster, so Jānis Straupe has a chance because the next one will be a right-hander, but it looks like K. Ozoliņš managed to get back on power earlier, and he has slight edge against Jānis Straupe. Fast right-hander, nice bold move. You can see such moves in real life. Also, some drivers managed to, or at least try to take those moves, but it didn't work for Jānis Straupe, and he's now facing the attacks of R. Ozoliņš, and all this happening for P8. Side by side, and Jānis Straupe still holding that outside line. Mištotas is mixing into this battle. He is currently 12th, and he needs those 2 positions if he wants to start the next race in higher places. Oh, and Mištotas runs out of road, has to lift off the throttle, and he's being caught by Povilas Bonkevičius. Povilas runs 13th, oh, and a similar situation. Povilas Bonkevičius had a huge accident previous year in the final corner, which looked a little bit similar to this situation on track right now. So some flashbacks in the head of Povilas Bonkevičius, and he's up to 11th position, which is not the best one you would like to. So Povilas Bonkevičius has 4 minutes and 30 seconds of this race remaining to try and finish that race in P10, which would give Povilas Bonkevičius the pole position for the next race. His good friend Aurimas Mištotas is now running 10th, Jānis Straupe 7th, Ozoliņš 8th. And we have a battle between Saldukas, Ungurs and Markevičius. So really hard to judge which position of the track to choose to witness these battles on the racetrack. But it's really similar to what we see in the real life, and if you remember the gaps of the qualifying session where we had the P3 and P25 separated only by 8/10, you do not wonder why we see these battles happening on the racetrack. And the driver who qualified 25th, he still had a chance to finish this race third. That's why these races are the most, or one of the most interesting races you can imagine. We are running on board with Markevičius, who is trying to stick behind Saldukas, and these drivers all are battling for P4 at this moment. EBaTCC is holding on to that position. I think EBaTCC qualified 8th. Yes, indeed, he did, and now he's running 4th, so nice amount of positions gained, while we see Justinas Saldukas and Ungurs battling around the first corner. Saldukas taking that longer line, as we have seen on the previous lap time with Jānis Straupe and Ozolinš, but it looks like Justinas Saldukas did have a better exit out of that first corner, and he has speed advantage because, well, the longer line is the faster line, and you can get back on the power a little bit earlier. What a nice move by Justinas Saldukas. Kovalevski is out of this race, so we have quite a lot of drivers who managed to not finish this race at all. Running on board with Ozolinš again, Jānis Straupe right behind him, and we have a nice group of cars with 2.5 minutes of the first race remaining, with Pavlos Bonkevičius running 11. He's 1 second behind Aurimas Mištotas, so I think well, the biggest hope for Pavlos Bonkevičius is the drivers ahead of him, that they make some mistake. Let's roll a little bit further back, where we have the driver from Brazil, Massad. He is only 14th, battling with Reis and Espina rights, and quite a lot of contacts between these drivers. Matas Mendel is also quite in the distance behind, so a lot of drivers who had good qualifying sessions, who had good pace, that they were involved in quite a lot of accidents, and I think a lot of our leaders were involved in those. And Nimz is actually out of this race already, and I'm not sure if he will start the second race. And this is a championship where every race counts. You need to finish every race if you want to, well, stay in the battle for those top places. But for now, it looks like that's the best news for T.Gudinavičius, because his main rival is out of the race, and I think he will not be back for the second one. Well, I hope he will be back, and I wish him to calm down and at least try to start in the second race. Of course, it's a nightmare to start to be one of the fastest drivers, but start from the final position, because well, it's clearly not that easy to make those overtakes when you have such equal grid of drivers, equally fast grid of drivers. And well, what do you know? Something happened. Pavlos Bonkevičius up to P9. I think Justinas Saldukas and Markevičius did have a contact, and now Pavlos Bonkevičius is having a look at the inside of Aurimas Mištotas. Both of the drivers having wiggle, and Justinas Saldukas right on the tail of Aurimas Mištotas, and also Pavlos Bonkevičius. 30 seconds to go, so we will start the final race. T.Gudinavičius with no problems whatsoever. 12-second gap against the second place Edvinas Žadeikis. Both of the drivers will start from the final places of top 10 in the second race. Aurimas Mištotas, will he have a look into corner number 1 on Pavlos Bonkevičius? Wow, Justinas Saldukas braking so much later, but I think it's too late, and also Pavlos Bonkevičius made a mistake. So that's a good chance for Aurimas Mištotas, and actually it wasn't that hard. And Aurimas Mištotas back to P8, Pavlos Bonkevičius down to P9, and there comes Saldukas and Markevičius, and it's still not over, the battle for P10 and the pole position for the second race. I think this is the closest battle on track right now for the top 10 places. We have Jānis Straupe and Ozolinš still battling. Pavlos Bonkevičius having a look on Aurimas Mištotas again. Through the fastest corner of the Estonian racetrack, both holding on tight nicely, and now the inside belongs to Pavlos Bonkevičius. I think Justinas Saldukas just clipped the back end of Aurimas Mištotas, and he had to lift off the throttle. While T.Gudinavičius won the first race, Edvin Žadeikis finishes second, Svetin's third, Šubeckis fourth, Ungurs should finish fifth, Ozolins sixth, Straupe seventh, and let's get back to that battle for P8, P9, P10, P11 and so on, but it looks like around the final corner, Povilas Bonkevičius goes and he should take that 8th position, which will be third for the second race. Mištautas 9th, so Justinas Saldukas takes the pole position for the second race. Ozolins finishes 12th. 12th? Is it 12th? Okay, my telemetry is already going all over the place. I'm not sure the positions are right. Zintas Raits finishes 12th, Matas Mendelis 13th, Po Spina 14th, Justas Lipšius 15th. Oh, Povilas Bonkevičius is qualified only 16th. I think he received a 10-second penalty for too many incident, and same goes for Roman Racing and the driver from Brazil, Massad. No penalties for the drivers in the top places. Okay, so let's take a quick commercial break, and we will be back with more action from the racetrack. So that was a really intense first race from the second round of the EBaTCC Championship 2023. This is the fourth season. The EBaTCC organization organizes virtual races, and I think that's one of the most successful seasons the championship has ever seen in those most popular BMW 325 Cup cars, also in real life. So we have seen a lot of incidents during the first race, and I think we will have a little bit more in the second one. So let's take a quick look at the results as they finished after the first race took that checkered flag. T.Gudinavičius took that win, but well, he was involved in an accident in the first corner. Žadeikis finished second. I think he had a contact with his teammate. Svetins finished third, Šubeckis fourth, Ungurs fifth, Ozolins sixth, Jānis Straupe seventh, Mištautas eighth, Saldukas ninth, and Markevičius 10th. So Markevičius will start the second race from pole position, and as usual, he will have quite big chances to try and finish a little bit higher in the second race, because the faster drivers will be a little bit further down the grid, further behind the leaders, and they will have to hope for a good start and for good luck to try and avoid accidents. Let's take a quick look at the drivers who were not that lucky. So the first one to be out of the first race was Goodale. Then we have seen quite furious DNF by Jan Nimz. He was involved in quite a lot of incidents, and then he just gave up after those harsher contacts. Kvidas Sokas ran out of fuel, and And well, you have seen the order shuffle because we are getting ready for that start of the second race. This is one of my favorite spots on the real racetrack to look at those race starts. The real BMW Cup also has a standing start procedure, so everything looks quite similar. We are currently standing on the roof of the building on the Porsche-ring racetrack, and we are looking at our pole position winner Justinas Saldukas. I think that happened after Povilas Bonkevičius was given that 40-second penalty. Well, and my guess was correct. Jan Nimz decided to call it a day after such an unsuccessful start, and he's not that happy. But let's keep on racing, let's keep on waiting, and maybe we will sit on the trunk of the BMW of Justinas Saldukas and look at the grid. 24 BMWs standing right behind Justinas Saldukas, ready for some more hot on-track action in the second race of the second round of the EBaTCC Championship, the fourth season on the virtual environment. We are currently in Estonia, Porsche-ring racetrack. I think this one is laser scanned and is really accurate. And we are already starting the second race, which will get intense. You see Aurimas Mištautas on the left side of your screens. Oh, and actually Povilas Bonkevičius is still starting from P4, so even though he was given the penalty by the World Sim Series system, but he still managed to hold on to that high place on Assetto Corsa title. Jānis Straupe running around the outside, braking late, and here we go again. Aurimas Mištautas and Povilas Bonkevičius standing sideways, running with Edvinas Žadeikis. He's currently P9, Tungurs 7th. What about T.Gudinavičius? Let's run on board with T.Gudinavičius. He's usually quite much... Well, he's trying to be much more careful at the beginning, and well, he doesn't have to fight too much. He's the fastest car on the racetrack right now, judging by the results of the practice sessions and the qualifying sessions. Only Jan Nimz could manage and keep up with the pace of T.Gudinavičius. Edvinas Žadeikis looking for some bold moves. He knows that he needs to move now, he needs to act right now, and he's going on Ozoliņš. If he wants to win this race, he needs to act as quick as possible and just hope for some good luck and hope for bad luck for T.Gudinavičius. Tora still stuck behind, I think he was stuck. He's still stuck behind Ungurs. You can see Edvinas Žadeikis struggling with Ozoliņš, so Ozoliņš is going for a move back, and that's how easy it is. Edvinas Žadeikis just had to clip that grass with his outside wheel, and that slows him down. Ozoliņš making good defensive moves, so Gudinavičius up to P7 right behind Edvinas Žadeikis. Justinas Saldukas currently in the lead, 1.7 seconds, and if Justinas Saldukas will manage to avoid mistakes, he has a good chance to win this race. Still running on board with T.Gudinavičius because these are some nice seats, and he's driving smart while the two cars in front of him are battling for position. And Edvinas Žadeikis was forced to choose that not comfortable spot. He dived into the inside of the corner and 3 wide. Edvinas Žadeikis currently on the inside, and he will be on the outside. T.Gudinavičius backs out. And this is clever because he will have the chance on the next corner. Ozoliņš being really, really aggressive while being defensive. Oh, Edvinas Žadeikis made a small mistake now. He's being attacked by his teammate T.Gudinavičius, while Toras has a good run. He didn't make any mistake around the corner. He backed out of that battle on the right moment. Edvinas Žadeikis was forced to stay in that battle, and here comes T.Gudinavičius into the inside. Edvinas Žadeikis to nail that corner while running around the outside. Actually not one but 2 corners. Another nudge, so these drivers are not avoiding contacts again, and all this battling of these faster drivers allows Justinas Saldukas, Jānis Straupe, Mištautas, Svetins and Ozoliņš to run away of this battle. 17 minutes remaining, so still plenty of time. We are running on board with Edvin Žadeikis. T.Gudinavičius is right behind him, so it's really hard to make those moves. And who's running around on the grass? A lot of drivers are running on the grass. Paulius Bunkevičius and Gvidas Sokas battling for P17. Bunkevičius had a good position for the start, but he's being nudged again, and this is really, really intense. I think it's a little bit easier on the real track. The nudges usually are a little bit softer, and if they nudge each other, then they just usually run off the racetrack. It's a little bit easier to kind of get involved in an accident in the virtual environment, because you don't crash your car, you don't damage it, and sometimes just the drivers take a little bit more risk, which is quite understandable. Justas Lipčius on the back end of Ozoliņš and having a company of Tauras Tunila. Tauras was really fast in the qualifying session, but we have seen him getting involved in some accidents in the first race, and now he has to kind of do it from the back of the pack on board with Matas Mendelis. We could see in the rear view mirror of Tauras Tunila that Matas Mendelis was also involved in a battle. Edvin Žadeikis half a second behind Ozoliņš, who just made a mistake running into the main straight. Now or never for Edvin Žadeikis with the company of T.Gudinavičius right on his tail, and he's forced to choose that uncomfortable outside line again. And Edvin Žadeikis doesn't fall for it this time and tries to outsmart his rivals with some different lines. Well, something's cooking right here. He's still sixth. He has the outside line for the next corner, but if he manages to stick on the tarmac, he will have the inside for the next one, and he manages to do so. T.Gudinavičius runs right behind Edvin Žadeikis and almost taking the position, running really close with Ozoliņš. So Ozoliņš lost only one place to Edvin Žadeikis. Edvinas is now 2.1 seconds behind Svetins, and that's quite big distance and a big gap, because the pace of the drivers is quite similar. And if Ozoliņš decides to try and go on Edvin Žadeikis, who is making small mistakes, which is quite important in these races, you have to avoid such small mistakes, because the drivers behind you will try and use those mistakes to their own advantage. Edvin Žadeikis manages to stay in front of Ozoliņš, but this is creating a really tight battle, because Markevičius and Ungurs are joining this battle. And the small slide by Edvin Žadeikis cost him maybe 2, maybe 3/10 of a second around one corner, but that was more than enough to create this snake effect. You can see further in the distance, if Edvin Žadeikis will keep calm and avoid mistakes for those next corners, he will finally lose the tail of Ozoliņš, Gudinavičius, Markevičius. Well, at least of Ozoliņš, because Gudinavičius is having a go on Ozoliņš. He's on the not so comfortable position on the racetrack, tries to leave just a tiny bit of space for Ozoliņš, and that creates a situation of 3 cars. And lucky for T.Gudinavičius, he was not clipped. He kind of pushed Ozoliņš to the inside, and there was Markevičius that created a small contact, and this allowed T.Gudinavičius to stay ahead in front and 3 wide into the first left-hander after that long straight. We have Markevičius, Reizin, Ungurs and Ozoliņš in this nice battle on board with Masad, who is also joining this 5-car battle at this moment. Running on board with the Brazilian. Oh, Markevičius was tapped and was being pushed, big contact, and it would have been game over already in real life. Oh, and he was tapped by Paul Espina, and I think it was Paul Espina who tapped the back end of Karolis Markevičius. But it's much tighter than it was during the previous race. Fastest lap time currently goes to Edvin Žadeikis, 1:28.0. But after that, good driving by T.Gudinavičius. I'm pretty sure Tauras will show his strengths on this racetrack. He has a clear track ahead of him, 1.4, 1.3 seconds now behind Edvin Žadeikis. He will be gaining, but we have only 12 minutes remaining, and I think Edvin Žadeikis will gain on Svetins, and the progress will stop. Konas Markevičius running sideways. We are still running on board with Toras Tonila because this is one of the tightest spots on the track, with Romet Racing leading the pack, being in P8, Massad and Ungurs battling behind. Spina and Tonila and Markevičius all battling for higher places. Nice driving, beautiful driving by Toras Tonila. He took the correct position on the racetrack. Now he's having a look into the inside of the corner on Markevičius. Managed to do so right behind Massad. And Romet Racing is kind of struggling a little bit, trying to hold on those guys behind him, and small mistakes might cost quite a lot of time. And we see Toras Tonila in the background trying to get that move on Massad. Didn't work out this time. Toras Tonila up to P11. Now he has to go defensive because Markevičius is back at it, and he's forced to choose that outside line, which is not that comfortable. I think Toras Tonila was looking too much into his rear view mirrors because he just shunned off the racetrack the Brazilian driver, and he's giving the spot, and he's doing that nicely. And we have, what do we have here? That's Justas Lipčius, who was I think spun around, and then he was hit heavily by the drivers behind. T.Gudinavičius setting the fastest lap time of the race, which is no surprise, and he's already 1.1 seconds behind Edvin Žadeikis. We are running with Goodall, and well, you never know at which position you will finish when you are running in the group, in the big group of cars, and all those drivers want to finish higher, and sometimes they might decide for riskier moves, and that might end the race much different. Povilas Bonkevičius running 17th behind Slisans. Mendel is down in P20, so unlucky. Yet another race was unlucky. What was it between Ozolinch and Massad? I don't even have time to take a look on my right monitor, but I want to see what the incident points of the drivers are and who is at risk to get more penalties. Toras Tonila has 13 incident points, so does Gvidas Okas. And Šubeckis already last, so missed what happened to Šubeckis, but he was really unlucky. He's currently 19, but he has quite a lot of incident points, which will give penalties for the drivers. In the meantime, T.Gudinavičius and Edvin Žadeikis right on the back of Svetins, and Aurimas Mištautas still holding on to that third spot. Justinas Saldukas running first, and Janis Traupe second. Svetins and Žadeikis, nice little battle. Another chance for T.Gudinavičius. So let's ride on board with the next Dream to Drive driver, Aurimas Mištautas. He's doing a phenomenal job holding on to that third spot. With 8 minutes and 20 seconds remaining, I think Justinas Saldukas is quite safe to take the victory of the second race, and that's why I have mentioned it's really important to try and finish in the top 10 places in the first race if you don't have enough pace to win that race, because the second race, when the grid starts, when the top 10 positions start in the reversed order, you usually have a lot of action happening on track, and the drivers from the lower top 10 from the first race have a good chance to win that second position. We're still running on board with Aurimas Mištautas, one of the Dream to Drive team drivers, on board with Toras Gudinavičius right now. He's looking into the back end of Edvin Žadeikis. I think now Toras Gudinavičius is waiting for some moves by Edvin Žadeikis. What happened to Toras Tonila? Toras is out of this race, so he didn't have the strength to finish. He had 15 incident points, maybe he maxed them out. Not sure what caused the disconnect, but Toras Tonila is out of the race. Toras Gudinavičius trying to choose the outside of the track and trying to take that inside for the next one, and nice driving by T.Gudinavičius, masterpiece, switching those lines, small contacts between those teammates, but this is what T.Gudinavičius needs after his main rival is out of the race. So his next main rival is Edvinas Žadeikis. Edvinas was third in the overall standings. He finished second in the previous race. The results are being calculated, summed together to decide who is the winner of each round. So there are no points for every race, there are points for the results of both races. So everyone wants to finish as high as possible in both of them, and that's why T.Gudinavičius is just not wasting any second, and gaining those positions as soon as he can. 6 minutes of race remain, so roughly 4 laps for the drivers. Edvinas Žadeikis tries to calm down. He knows that he will have his chance in this race, but I think these drivers are battling for third position at the highest, because Justinas Oldukas and Jānis Traupe are far away. Aurimas Mištutas runs third, he's 3 seconds behind. There goes T.Gudinavičius. Svetins has to be defensive. Edvinas Žadeikis sits tight behind. Oh, and you cannot make mistakes like these in these tight battles. Edvinas Žadeikis lost the rear end of the car entering the corner. I think he had to tap the brakes slightly to avoid contact, which unbalanced the car and set the rear end sliding. Good news, he didn't lose time. Another contact between T.Gudinavičius and Svetin, so these drivers are kind of not being good at deciding their rival braking points, and sometimes they do not avoid small contacts. But a nice little battle with 5 minutes to go. On board with Svetins, 1.2 seconds behind Aurimas Mištutas, and he has the fastest driver on the track. Oh, Edvinas Žadeikis, I thought he was going on a move, and he was, but was it a gear misshift or something? He clipped the back end of T.Gudinavičius and then lost quite a lot of time exiting that corner. That's 1.6 seconds, and I think that's over for Edvinas Žadeikis for a battle for a hard position battle in this race, unless T.Gudinavičius and Svetins will get involved in some sort of an accident. But I think T.Gudinavičius has a quite good line right now to take the 4th position, and he's already 4th on our results table, and I think it's not going to be really hard for T.Gudinavičius to hold on to that inside line, because he's the driver who is the fastest man on the Estonian racetrack. And actually he was given plenty, he gave plenty of room for Svetins, and that's more than enough. Masad is out of this race, so the second race is not that lucky for a lot of drivers. Žadeikis is 1.2 seconds behind Svetins. Maybe he will gain on Svetins towards the end of the race, but that's not going to be the easiest part, and I think T.Gudinavičius will be on a mission to try and chase down Aurimas Mištutas, but that time is ticking out. Good news for T.Gudinavičius is that I think he's quite safe with finishing 4th to still be the winner of the second round, and that's more than he needs after his main rival is out of this race. So things are looking good for our previous EBaTCC 325 Cup champion, T.Gudinavičius, who has also real track experience, and he knows the Estonian racetrack from reality really well, and maybe he's using the knowledge to his own advantage. In 2 weeks' time we will travel to Poland, the Tour Poznan circuit. Sadly, EBaTCC Championship is not going to visit Poland, at least in 2023, but they will do that in the virtual environment, and that's going to be quite an interesting race, because Tour Poznan is quite a fast track with long straights, fast corners, a couple of slow ones, and it usually creates nice scenarios for good racing. And I'm already excited about the next one. While we see a battle between Aurimas Mištutas and T.Gudinavičius, and it's not going to be that hard. T.Gudinavičius up to P3. with quite an easy overtake, which slows both of the drivers down a little bit, and that will give a chance for Svetins and maybe Žadeikis to try and battle it out for higher positions. I know Auto24ring personally, he's really a nice, great guy, and he's really a gentleman driver, and he didn't cause any issues for T.Gudinavičius, even though he was running quite close to his Lithuanian fellow rival. He still managed to leave enough of room on the racetrack to avoid contacts, and that's how the tight, beautiful racing needs to happen on the racetracks. Edvin Žadeikis is 6th, and he is now running behind those slightly slower drivers, Mištutas and Svetins. 1 minute and 20 seconds remain, so we are on the penultimate lap of the second round. Not a lot of laps remain for Edvin Žadeikis to try and finish slightly higher to grab those precious points, and he will be on a mission. Gudinavičius is already too far behind Jānis Straupe, and I think Justinas Saldukas will win the second race quite easily. Nice result for the Lithuanian driver who has never raced in the real world, as far as my knowledge goes. And we remain with Edvin Žadeikis running right on the tail of Svetins, and well, starting the final lap, being 2 tenths behind Svetins. He needs to move, he needs to act, and he knows the track in and out. He will be forced to choose that outside line into corner number 1. I'm pretty sure about it. Or will he? No, he was a little bit too far behind to try and make that move, and sliding out of that first corner again. Still having slightly better traction than Svetins, but not enough to take that spot. So he's still 6th, still trying hard to finish at least 5th. We are running on board with Aurimas Mištutas, who runs 4th, while the time is sticking out. Oh, and Svetins runs a little bit wide, kind of opens the door for Edvin Žadeikis, and I think Edvinas will be on the most comfortable part on the racetrack to try and take that spot away of Svetins. Svetins being quite aggressive. He knows that if something won't happen, he will most probably lose the position. But quite nice driving, late braking, but that's a little bit too late running on the grass, and I think that's more than braking late again. Still trying to hold on to that position, and that's what he's wanting to achieve, because well, he wants that inside line to the next corner, and that's not how you do it on the last corners, and that's basically final tries into penultimate corner to take that spot away, but that's not what we would like to see. And is it oh, it's the finish of the race, I believe. Yeah, so the drivers are showing the drift skills. So Justinas Saldukas won the race, Jānis Straupe finished 3rd, Edvinas Žadeikis 5th, I'm getting a little bit confused, but it is the finish of this race. You can see the checkered flag, and ladies and gentlemen, this is already over. Let me find a nice table to take a good look at while we are looking at one of the organizers, Jānis Straupe, who managed to have a decent finish. He was kind of invisible during the first race, but he did quite good during the second one with finishing second. So let's take a quick look at the results of the second race, which are not official, because we have seen quite a lot of incidents also in the second race, so the stewards will have quite a lot of work to do after both of these races, and the results will change, and I'm pretty sure about it. But still, congratulations to Justinas Saldukas for winning the second race. Jānis Straupe finished 2nd, T.Gudinavičius 3rd, Aurimas Mištutas, great race, finished 4th. Edvin Žadeikis managed to hold on to that 5th spot after that dive into the penultimate corner by Svetins, who finished 6th, Ozolins finished 7th, Ungurs 8th, Reizin 9th, and Markevičius finished 10th. So nice mix of driver names on the results table. A lot of them are racing in the real world with the real 325 Cup cars. Others are only virtual sim racers, but that creates quite a nice, spectacular show. I hope you had fun and enjoyed this evening, and as you know, the next round will take place in 2 weeks' time. So be prepared, because we are going to the virtual Tour Poznan circuit in Poland. Have a good evening, and see you next time.